Welcome into Bengals Breakdown. I am Tom Downey. Getting into today's show, we start with the latest on Tee Higgins. The two sides, shockingly, do not appear remotely close to getting a contract done. There is still technically the lingering Tee Higgins trade request, which at this point, nobody that covers the Bengals seems to think will be granted in the end. This is the latest reporting from the Cincinnati Enquirer that Higgins had been asking for, hoping to get around $23 million per year, which is what the deal that the Colts eventually gave Michael Pittman ended up being. The Bengals, however, never even offered $20 million. The report was that they weren't even that close to getting to $20 million per year. And because the two sides were never close on the average per year figure, they never discussed the guaranteed money. If you actually wanted to get a Tee Higgins deal done, like we're pushing very hard to do it, you know the $20 million is frankly borderline insulting. That was never going to work in terms of this market for the wide receiver room. Maybe it would have made a bit more sense last year, but this year, even last year, it was like, it's probably not going to be enough there. This year is ridiculous because the franchise tag is over $21 million this year for Tee Higgins. Players don't get tagged for $21 million and go, you know what? Let me take a $17 or $18 million per year deal. So we know where this is trending, right? It's one last ride, maybe two, but probably one last ride for Tee Higgins as a member of the Bengals organization. The 2025 tag cost is $26.18 million. And now you start to see, okay, maybe that's why Tee Higgins was looking at $23 million per year, because that's the average of the two franchise tag costs, is right about $23 million. It's a little bit less, but still it's close enough that it balances out there in the end. I don't think the Bengals tag him next year the same way they tagged Jesse Bates twice. Might be one and done for Higgins. So is this his last year in Cincinnati with the Bengals? It is the pin comment on today's video. That ad comes on YouTube. Great, ignore it. Head down to the pin comment and vote instead. Y for yes, N for no. Higgins' numbers did dip this past year. Only played 12 games, battled injury. His starting quarterback battled injuries. The backup even briefly got nicked up a little bit. But he's been a close to 1,000-yard receiver over the course of his career. First 3 years, he averaged over 1,000 yards. That is valuable. And we have a really good feel for what the market of, maybe he's not a number one on this team. Maybe he's the number two behind a great number one. Maybe he's just the number two or a low-end wide receiver one. We know what that market looks like. It's Devonta Smith, $25 million per year. Smith is the number two wide receiver on Philadelphia, behind the highest paid wide receiver in football, A.J. Brown. The Bengals could do that if they wanted to. I don't think they're going to, because they don't operate their funds and their cash the way that the Eagles do. Deebo Samuel's making $23 million. Michael Pittman's making $23 million. Terry McLaurin, are those guys true receiver ones in the same mold of Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase? No. But those deals were signed a while ago. That is the market for Tee Higgins. I don't think the Bengals are going to get there. Now, I've seen people claim it's mostly those are the other fan bases, Bleacher Report. They drafted Jermaine Burton. They're going to trade Tee Higgins. These people are desperate to force a T trade to a team like the Giants or the Panthers or whatever. As if we didn't know, every single person who's a Bengals fan who follows Bengals knew, hey, this is probably going to draft a receiver on day two. It's a great class. It makes so much sense. They know Higgins might not be there next year. Every 7-round Bengals mock had a receiver on day two. And they did that. And now it's so they're going to dump him. Wait, what? We knew that already. So I think Burton can be receiver 3 for this team, short term. He offers inside-outside flexibility. He's a great fit. Maybe he's the long-term outside replacement. Maybe they add somebody else. He plays slot. They've still got Charlie Jones as a slot option, Andre Yosifov as a slot option. I like this receiver room a lot in Cincinnati for 1 year. And then next year, it's probably is the end of the line for Higgins, unfortunately. Today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. NBA playoff action is here. You can get in on that. Win up to 100 times your money. There's some little, some good offers. If you go into the Prize Picks app, you can see some reduced projections and more. You can also do NHL. If you're into hockey, you can do esports as well, and season-long NFL Prize Picks as well. Simply go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for that first deposit match up to $100. Here are I've got a couple out there. This is the one I like the most because it's all pro players who get the more than on projections that were less than last year's numbers. Mahomes passing yards, Dak passing yards, Lamb receiving touchdowns, Micah Parsons sacks, all the more than, because I always advise the flex play. The flex play means if you get one wrong, you still come out on top, and that saved my bacon a bunch last year in the regular season when I'd get 2 out of 3 right, 3 out of 4 right as well. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS. Links in the comments and the description of today's show. Let's talk Trey Hendrickson. He, of course, as we broke down on the channel, requested the trade on the eve of the NFL draft and annoyed everybody with it. Also pitched retirement if he doesn't get a new deal because nothing says I am desperate to get a new contract and I have no leverage than pay me or trade me or I'm going to retire. You really? That's a bad job by the agent, by the way. Horrible leverage angle of just everything go. Why would I pay you if you're about to retire? That just kind of like hurts your own argument there. Hendrickson is just trying to get paid. That's all that is. And I get that. I get that part. Here's what Zach Taylor said on Hendrickson. You let Trey voice his concerns. I am listening. I've got an open ear to him. I love Trey. I've told Trey that. We want Trey to play here next year for us. He's going to play here next year for us. He's going to have success, and we're going to have success, and I'm excited for that. This is why you separate the head coach and the GM, because the head coach can be like, buddy, I got you. I'll work on it. I'll try. And the GM gets to be like, no, we're not doing that. Sorry, buddy. And then there's no bad feelings between the player and the coach. We got to have the good relationship there. What is the % chance the Bengals end up trading Trey Hendrickson? Sound off in the comments. Despite what other fan bases want, I think this number is very low. Jesse Bates never got traded. Carson Palmer had to actually retire before he got traded. This team is in go-for-it mode. They want to win the whole damn thing, and trading away players like Higgins, like Hendrickson, spoiler alert, doesn't help that. The last 4 years of Hendrickson's play have been impressive. You need him out there to win games. He might not be an elite run defender. He is a special pass rusher. He had 17.5 sacks last year. Probably should have gotten some all-pro consideration, but there are a lot of good pass rushers these days in the NFL. Sam Hubbard is coming off of his own injury this past year, which I think is a short-term flag, maybe not a long-term flag at all. Hendrickson, you spent a first-round pick on Myles Murphy, drafted Cedric Johnson, Joseph Ossai, maybe he breaks out this year, Cam Sample. You're good at defensive end for this year. Next year could be a very different conversation for Cincinnati. Why start that? Why actively get worse now when you're winning? For Hendrickson and Higgins, if God forbid the quarterback goes down again and it's a bad start to the season and they're like out of it by the trade deadline, we can revisit. But if they're as good as we think they should be, they're not going to get traded. Stay locked in to all of the latest on the Bengals news, rumors, and more. Hit that sub button right now, youtube.com/BengalsTV. Some news before we go. We do know now the Dax Hill role. Bengals confirming he's going to play cornerback this year. As Zach Taylor said on the position switch for the former first-round pick, one of the reasons you took him was because all of the various things you'd seen on tape. He's a superb athlete. He's got great size. Did a good amount of coverage at Michigan, playing inside, covering slots, playing some on the outside. The versatility is what made him the pick that he was. We're excited for his future. He has done a tremendous job embracing this opportunity, and I'm excited to see him go out there and compete. So how many games, and zero's a valid answer, by the way, folks, will Dax Hill end up starting for the Bengals? Hill started a lot of games last year for Cincinnati, and the flashes were there. He made some plays, and there were 2 times it's like, busted coverage, Dax. That's the wrong scheme, dude. You're out there, hypothetical example. We're playing man, and you're in cover 2. Or we are in cover 2, and you are playing a robber spot. What are you doing out? Like, too many of those just made the mistake. Had to be fixed. Now, what I am curious about is which corner does Dax Hill end up playing? Because you got Tam Kaler-Britt as one clear-cut starter. I would think Dax Hill, DJ Turner, starting battle at corner. Maybe a veteran gets tossed in that mix. Who knows? We'll see what happens from that perspective. They added Josh Newton as a draft pick as well. I think he's going to be more of a backup, by the way. Mike Hilton at the nickel. I think Dax Hill might be best as a nickel corner. So I am very curious to see what ends up happening with Hill because I am not out on him quite yet.